and thank you for joining me today. This is going to be our first of 6 episodes of factoring polynomials. The first strategy we're going to be talking about today is factoring out greatest common factors. What we're going to do in this first example here is look at and see that we have 1, 2, 3 terms. What we want to find out is what is the largest thing that divides into all 3 of these terms, not just numbers but also variables. First thing I'd like to do is start with numbers. So when I look at 9, 81, and 9, I want to know what's the largest number that divides into all 3 of those. And if you guessed it, you're right, it is 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 9 on the outside. Oops, I'm going to put a 9 on the outside. Then I'm going to look at the variables and see if they share the same variable. And I look and I see x to the 5th, x to the 3rd, and x. So they do have an x as a common factor. But the question is, what is the largest power of x that we can take out? Now, sometimes when you see the largest power, you think, oh, the largest power is x to the 5th. But we want to know what's the largest thing that divides into all 3. And in doing so, what we're really looking for is what is the smallest power of the variable that you see. Here I see a 5, here I see a 3, and here I don't see a number, but really, remember, this is a power of 1. So, the largest thing that will divide into all those is x to the 1st power. So, let's actually do the division. So I'm going to take my original 9x to the 5th plus 81x to the 3rd plus 9x and divide each one of them by our greatest common factor of 9x. And let's see what's left. So I still have the 9x, which is our GCF, but 9 divided by 9 is 1, and x to the 5th divided by, remember, this is x to the 1st. You subtract the powers, so we're left with x to the 4th plus 81 divided by 9 is 9, and x to the 3rd divided by x to the 1st, subtract the powers and we get x squared. Now, this is the one that people tend to have a problem with. They tend to just completely drop this last term, but you got to remember, when you divide 9x by 9x, you're actually left with something, and that is in fact 1. So our factored form would be 9x times the quantity of x to the 4th plus 9x squared plus 1. If you really wanted to check it, you could always distribute the 9x all the way through, because distribution is the inverse operation of factoring out a GCF. Let's take a look at our next one. Here, if I focus on my coefficients, I have -6x, -6, -3, and 18. The largest thing that divides into all of those is 3. If I really wanted to, I could also factor out a negative out of each one, but we're going to leave that for now. Next, I'm going to look at and see they all have u. So I'm going to take out a u. The question is, what power? So what is the smallest power of u? I see a 7, a 4, and a 4. So I can have a GCF of u to the 4th here. And finally, I see a v in this term, a v to the 4th, and a v. So I can take a v out of the smallest power, which is 1 in each one of these cases. So my GCF is really 3u to the 4th v. So now let's go ahead and divide each one of these terms by our GCF. And let's see what's going to be left. Now, this step that I'm writing right now is not exactly necessary, but what it does is it helps remind us that when we take out the GCF, we're really dividing every term by our GCF. Sometimes if we forget to do this, or we don't do this at all, we might forget that it's division and things might disappear, or we might make some computational mistakes. So I would strongly suggest doing this step here, but it's not exactly necessary. So our GCF we bring down as 3u to the 4th v, and we divide -6 by 3 is -2. U to the 7th divided by u to the 4th is u to the 7 minus 4 is 3. And these v's completely cancel out, so we're not left with any v's left here. Next term, -3 divided by 3 is -1. U to the 4th divided by u to the 4th, those go away. V to the 4th divided by v to the 1st, subtract the powers and you're left with 1v to the 3rd. And the last term, 18 divided by 3 is 6. U to the fourth divided by u to the fourth completely cancels out. And v cancels out. So you're left with no variables left. So our final answer is 3u to the fourth v times the quantity of negative 2u to the third minus 1v to the third plus 6. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and you get to enjoy the next couple.